Evening and welcome to tonight's Monday Live, joined by Matt again, which is always nice to have you in the fitting bay.
Yes.
Sadly, not going to be at full speed.
We'll see.
Forearm injury, but a wonderful weekend of golf.
Yes.
I think not tide mark moment, but a kind of a shift change, I think, in terms of, I think viewership of Live's going to go through the roof, with Anthony Kim shooting a 9 under to come. It's a sort of come from behind weekend, wasn't it? With Kim coming through with a 9 under finish, Charlie Hull coming in with a 7 under last round to win, and then Scotty Scheffler shooting a 63 to nearly win, with Morikawa holding out. Charlie's up to world number 3 now. So actually a really interesting last round across all the main tours that we're playing.
Yeah, I mean, it was I don't watch a lot of TV golf these days, but I did find myself getting up early and actively watching that live event. I thought we were going to see a one for the ages of a DeChambeau versus Rahm, real shootout, and then they both sort of dropped off, and all of a sudden AK came flying through the field. And
it was interesting seeing, because I didn't get up early to watch it, but I actually looked straight away, and to see how static their scoring was compared to what was doable. There was I'm trying to think who else went low. There was another low round, but neither of them really made much forward momentum. I mean, Bryson went backwards. I think Rahm was 2 under, but to shoot 9 round there.
I think it in classic, as they've done in previous years, they watered it heavily before the event and then basically didn't touch it for this time 4 days rather than the 3. So by that last day, it was playing tough. It was playing dry. And I think someone like Bryson and, to be honest, Rahm as well, are such target golfers. There was a few times with Bryson, I saw him hit it at a flag and sort of was expecting it to just stop, and it would take a big bounce and he'd have a 30-footer rather than a 4-footer. And
it's classic Aussie golf, sandbelt golf, where actually it needs to be firm. The slopes around the greens make the short game side of things so interesting, and that's the bit that Anthony Kim. I think back to Anthony Kim way back playing on tour, and he was, his long game was always good, but his putting, as shown out, was just electric. But his short game was always so good.
It was watching him with a flat stick in his hand on that final 9. It just looked like we're in 2006. He just saw a hole that was 10 times bigger than the hole was. It was very exciting. I have to say I can't comment too much on the other two. I watched a little bit of the US stuff Friday night.
It's just late for us over here.
Yeah, just late, and I struggled with it. I saw some of the scoring, and I mean, anytime you see Scotty on the charge, golfers get excited. 8 under through 8, I think. Yeah, golfers get excited. But it was nice to see Colin, given the issues he's had with his yips and whatnot this year. It was good to see him get over that mental hump.
Yeah, and so we talked about Charlie, but that last round again, -6 for the last 8 holes. When she's on the front foot and the swing's flowing, because she there's a 1 long eagle putt and there's a decent putt in the last, but she was flagging shots. She was hitting them close a lot. And when her swing's on like that and she's got green light, go for it. That kind of, I always think she's going to win a major from 2 or 3 back charging.
Yeah, she's not going to be the one that holds on.
Or she's just going to.
Or she's just going to disappear. It's not going to be that. It's one shot in it, one shot in it, one shot in it. It has to play a bit not sensible golf, but more.
She's a go-get. She
wants to chase it.
But some really, really exciting golf, which I think was great to see.
Yeah,
more the merrier. And Riviera this week, which is always a fun.
Of course,
that's one I do watch because of the course. Just it has to be played properly and strategically and differently. It's just one that it's just a great classic layout. So that'll be fun to watch. So lots of questions in already. Thank you very much. I better get cracking. Tractor Boy Dave, evening chaps. Good evening. Use a 55-gram driver shaft. My Woodson hybrid of 65 grams, all graphite, and my irons are 105 grams steel. Is there a reason for such a big gap in weights between the two?
Not necessarily. I mean, there's such different dynamics between woods and hybrids and then the irons in terms of how you move it. You tend to find that with the woods, you will hit down on it a lot less than you will do with the irons, and the dynamics of the swing are very, very different because ultimately you're trying to do 2 completely different things with the golf club. Yeah. Normally, if I looked at those, I'd say you're in a pretty good place from a weight tracking.
Maybe say you'd look at the hybrid going slightly heavier, but again, hybrid's one of those, depends how you play it, as you alluded to. If you play it like a wood, if you're clearing through and want something just to kind of help get it away as easy as possible, the lighter weight works. But then going to an iron, pulling, you're hitting down a little bit more, you want the weight to take you down to the ball. So that slight change in plane and delivery, it is slightly on the bigger side as a weight jump, but it's not ridiculous. But if anything, it's the one I would look at the hybrid and go, would that be the one? If that was 70 to 75 grams, then that track seems a little bit more natural to me. But there's not far off at all. So, Ibianek or Elbianek 11. Hello, gents. Was recently fit into the Diamana Whiteboard 73 TX stout shaft. Played the X in the past and was wondering what the difference is. The website shows the same torque value and 1 gram difference. Now, interesting this. We are quite a strong viewpoint on this because we actually called them out about bend profiles on the Diamana Whiteboard when it launched, in that as it goes from, in the lighter weights in particular, the R to the S to the X, TX, it felt like they were a different shaft. But actually the tip section stays very, very similar, but the butt end ramps up in terms of stiffness. So whilst the torque value and the weight are very, very similar, the grip end gets that much stiffer. So essentially it's the handle end that ramps up. And that's really the only difference.
Yeah, and as you say, it's 1 gram of difference, but that's ultimately just a thicker handle.
Yeah, just that bit more stout. And we thought it was a different, we thought when it went to the X and the TX, it was almost like some shafts go to a different profile, but it was just that actually it was just the handle end stiffening up a lot. So that is the only difference. SJ Davis, evening, I'm reshafting some Ping hybrids, the G430. The Aldela site shows tipping info, but Ping suggests they don't tip shafts before installing. Should I tip or not for stock result?
Ping design their shafts to be not tipped, but your stocks, well, your standard aftermarket shaft will be designed to be tipped. So if you're putting in something that's an aftermarket option, follow the instructions of the manufacturer would be my suggestion.
Yeah, essentially as the head weight goes up, it softens the tip of the shaft a little. As you're going up in loft, the head weights crank up 6 or 7 grams per club. And so therefore the tipping is just to keep that recovery performance through the tip of the shaft the same. So ultimately you're just stabilizing it for a higher loft where you're not needing the help launching it, but also the heavier weight. So that's why they do it. David Thurman, I will do that one next because he got in there first and then retracted. But gaming Cobra Aerojet driver 3-wood and hybrid, what advantages, if any, would the new Cobra woods give me? Playoff 4.3 stiff shafts.
Forgiveness.
Yeah. Aerojet was strong, driver-wise was strong. I think from a flight point of view, they were good for low spin, but off-centre, little bit, maybe toe side, a little bit volatile on spin, just knuckled a little bit.
I can tell you that from personal experiences. I've got one in the bag and I've got the LS, I put the heavy weight in the toe just to try and help maintain a little bit of flight and spin out of a toe strike. But no,
I mean, Optima are going to be tangibly better off centre, just much, much less affected. You drop a little less ball speed, the spin should stay a little more stable, but definitely the shot pattern off centre, you're not going to see as much gearing and as much left-right dispersion. Particularly on driver, I would say fairway wood, a little bit better low on the face in particular. And then hybrid, I'm trying to think with the Aerojet hybrids.
I thought it used to be quite strong, and they've got
one
because they went rad speed.
Rad was an absolute bullet,
and I think Aerojet was very similar. And then they started to weaken the flight a little bit and get it a little more controllable. So I would say you'd see with hybrid,
bit of a softer flight.
Yeah, slightly higher spinning, higher launching, softer flight.
But generally across each of them, just better across face performance would be the main thing. SJ Davis, oh no, done that one, sorry, I jumped. Alistair Mack, evening gents, from a fitting perspective, is it best for a player to come in swinging around 80% speed to achieve optimal launch, spin and carry, etc. In a more controlled way compared to swinging 100%? With irons, you don't really want to be 100%.
I would say the answer is as you would be on the golf course. Is the true answer, because there are some people that will try and knock the cover off it with every swing, no matter where they are. And there's other guys that will try and cozy it with, will swing within themselves and just be, I want to hit the middle of the green, in the middle of the fairway, in the middle of the face. So the answer is it's what do you do as a golfer? That's probably how I would want you swinging in the fitting bay.
Yeah, it's ultimately, it's positive, but you want to stay balanced. And if you're losing your balance, then you're swinging too hard. It's the balance that gives you the control, the stability, and actually efficiency through impact as well, from an action point of view. So you don't want to be you don't want to be reining it back and kind of steering at it, because then you lose the flow and your efficiency of muscle movement and freedom to the swing, which creates speed and release verticals through the ball. But so it needs to be positive, but not a hit at it. It's a move. It's a freed up move through it that's got some nice. That's creating some speed, but isn't losing balance. Yeah, I would say. Gerald Sturgis, wanting to find an upgrade for my Fuji Vista Pro 55 R2. Any suggestions? Good shafts, those.
Yeah. Depends. I guess it depends what you mean when you say upgrade. If you mean sort of similar feel but slightly better quality material, which I guess would be the most logical upgrade.
So it's a stable shaft for what it does, I would say. It feels fairly solid, but there's a bit of bounce in the tip, but there's a bit of tip response. It's actually a very good all-round shaft.
That is a great question.
That is an interesting one.
I'd be inclined off the bat straight away if it was me and I was kind of going, right, okay, changing to something slightly different. First point I would go to would be Drago. It's a weight-wise, it's a slight variance. It's a couple of grams lighter.
Slightly lighter, yeah.
But feel point of view, you'll get a very similar balance and feel.
Yeah.
But that's slightly higher, well, a much higher grade material to match into probably a slightly smoother feel.
And if it was still around, first gen Ventus Red.
Yeah.
But because the balance was more similar, now it's higher up the shaft. So that isn't particularly useful to say, because it isn't a relevant one anymore.
What do you think something like a TPT Red in a...
More responsive, it's a
It's
softer
whether
feel.
it's too
That
soft,
way it's going to be a softer feel. So we're just kind of the
We're
glances
looking
at
at
the
the
wall,
wall.
just sort of thinking through different options. Devotion, Oban Devotion 5. That one's going to give us similar. It's not that much dearer, but actually performance-wise, it's a slight upgrade, I would say.
Just always have to wait for the Mind Palace to find it. It's always in there. He's just got to find it.
Possibly Graphite Design XC. It's just possibly a smoother feel, but the balance point's going to be more similar. Yeah, XC5. That'd be a good one. Yeah, got there eventually. Could hear the cogs whirring. Chris McAteer, hey Simon, quick ball question. I like to move away from the crowd with my ball. Using Wilson staff model, the numbers seem great. How much consistency am I losing compared to, say, a Pro V1? Actually, now, ironic you should say that. We've just had the guys from Wilson and we just tested their new ball.
Given a conversation we had about 40 minutes ago.
The answer is not a lot, I don't think. I think a ball that I was really surprised with how good it was the Maxfly. We got some over from the US, so the Maxfly was a really good golf ball. Titleist, I think for me, have always held the tightest tolerance to the most consistency ball to ball, and that's been where they've had their kind of USP, essentially. But they are getting caught up, and I think a ball like the make sure I get the right one. The Wilson staff are underrated, but Wilson are a massive company. They're owned by Amer Sports. They have the highest used basketball, highest used baseball bat. They're actually a massive company with a lot of resources to them. So they're not going to make a bad golf ball. And based on the durability of the cover that we just had a look at, that upgrade to the Wilson ball.
Yeah, he's lost it.
So, so to loop back in case you didn't hear the last bit, depending when it dropped out, that Wilson ball is very impressive. And I think the only thing I would say is, depending on where you are, if you're in the US, then the Maxflies are definitely worth a try in terms of, kind of what you get for your dollar. I was really impressed with them, but the new Wilsons look very good. And if it's Pro V1 versus X, then the staff model, definitely worth a look. Felt really nice. A little more lively feeling than the Pro V1, if anything, actually. Definitely worth a try. Yeah. And they will be, certainly over here, I believe about £10 a dozen less. So good quality and good value. Daniel Winterbottom, could a high swing weight or high dead weight cause casting at the top of the swing?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, heavy dead weight, 100%. Because I'm going to hand you that. Because if you've got a lot of mass, then essentially once it gets, if it's very heavy, it's going to kind of make you swing, potentially take you too far back. To get it going, you're going to have to throw the club to get it back out. And also, if it's heavy, as you fire, the club doesn't come with you, your only way to get it back to the ball is to flip at it. So that could certainly do it. Heavy swing weight, if the head gets detached, again, it can also get that bit of a drop, and then you've got to fetch at it. So the answer is both could. But they would be doing it slightly different ways. Heavy dead weight is more likely to, as a general rule of thumb, I would say. Right, you can start reading some questions.
The Yorkshire Blade, oh, lost you there. The Yorkshire Blade, hi guys, great to be here again. Can you advise dynamic loft for a 105 driver speed and 89 mile an hour 7.9 speed? Should it be half club head loft?
Yeah.
It depends.
Yeah.
It depends on a lot of other things. It depends. Ultimately, it comes down to how you move the golf club. If you're someone that's very steep into the ball and has a very, a very negative attack angle and takes huge.
Speed, 90, basically 90 and 105.
Yeah, takes a huge beaver tail of a divot. Just stumbled over those words.
So saying that again quickly.
Then you might find that is somewhere you want to be. But actually, if you really pick it, you're going to struggle to get to that because dynamically you can't get in a place where you're almost hitting at neutral attack angle and getting the club that far forward. So there's a lot of that, to be honest, is a swing conversation rather than.
There's not a best figure.
Yeah, there's not an answer.
There is a best figure, but it depends on what your dynamics are that isn't going to compromise potentially something else. This is one of those with golf. It's one of those. We could throw a number out there, but it might actually be something that could do you harm to try and achieve. So it's one of those ones where it's a definitely maybe kind of answer. In that, say, for some players, a high dynamic loft is good because they're delivering it shallow and need the higher launch because the spin's lower. Or if you rip down on it, you need the lower launch because the spin's high. And so there is that differential that's going to come from unique action. Yeah.
Stephen Forge 89. Hi guys, love the show. Can you hit the new 440K and the LST to see the difference in numbers? I gained the LST but might test the new K model. He's gone running off to grab both. So he'll be back very shortly. I'll go on to the next one just whilst he's grabbing bits. James Denny, I'm using a Titleist GT3 and at the sim I visit, I'm noticing crazily high smash factor of 1.54 to 1.56 at times. Is this a TrackMan issue where it can't read the speed the GT head is moving? There's a chance that's to do with the light. On
GT is normally pretty good at.
GT is normally pretty good, so I'd say potentially it's a light situation with the bay you're using. Depends which TrackMan or which system it is that it's using. Where you said TrackMan, I'm assuming if it's an IO. We've heard people say there's a couple of funky things that have come from IO, but with us not having them, we don't know. But I'd probably be looking at gloss crown, plus if it's low light, it can sometimes miss slightly. I'll go
so
on
just getting the right screw.
Yeah, whilst you're grabbing the right screws. WJC7610. Hi, Simon and Matt. Hello from Singapore again, Simon. Thanks for your reply. Just subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. Simon, are there any lightweight 90 to 100 gram wedge shafts you recommend?
Yeah, I think if you don't need weight in the tip end, if you're looking for something higher balanced than the KBS, Tour Light, that's nice. Nippon 950 is always a good wedge shaft as well. I think those two in particular would probably be the ones that would automatically spring to mind. And if you're looking for a graphite, then Acradua, a wedge-specific one at that weight. Just trying to think of any others in particular that anything else that really jumps out? The Dynamic Gold in the 95 is very tip heavy.
Yeah.
Actually, the Steel Fiber, they've got a wedge-specific one at that weight. That's a good alternative.
Just a nice smooth.
Yeah. But again, a bit more balance in the bottom end for graphite as well.
Right, what have you got here as your...
So I'm going to start with the LS.
Okay.
I'm just going to put the weight in the centre, just so apples with apples.
I'll do one more whilst it's sorting out. Michael Brereton. I recently upgraded to a 440 LST with an Aeroterra EC1 grey 55 stiff from a Ping G15. Love the club, but have noticed a drop in swing speed and perceive it to be too light. Do I need to change shaft?
So what was the Aeroterra grey?
55, EC1 55 stiff.
Well, without knowing what shaft you were in, there are a few spec things that can come about with the Ping head. Their base weights can be quite heavy. It could be that it's it's actually just too heavy in the bottom end, and so timing can get a little bit out of sync, or if there's not enough weight to use in the club to build speed with. Sometimes if you go too light, it ends up losing you a little bit of swing speed as well. So it could be a few bits.
In a further down one, sorry, I just almost feels like I have nothing to hit against. Yeah. I do hit the club a lot longer than my older driver.
The head's likely to give you more efficiency.
Yeah.
Shaft is a good shaft, but if you feel like you lose the club in the swing, then yeah, sounds like it's just gone a little bit too light. It's a 58 gram, so it's not really light, but I'd say trust your feel on that one.
Yeah. Totally. Right, I'm going to get out of the way so you can give these numbers a go.
Driver, so it's relevant. Right. So you're going to start with the LS. God, doesn't feel too stiff. They won't be my quickest swings, that's for sure. So, little bit necky. Yeah, I'll give it one more. So holds spin pretty well out the heel side actually. So it's not the lowest spin in the world. It's almost more a low launch. I think for 40 LST, we almost felt they went slightly safe with it on the spin. I think they could have pushed the spin rate a little bit further. There we go, solid one. But yeah, there you go. So 13.8 launch to just under 2.1 spin. Yeah, sitting in a nice place there. It's not ridiculously low spin, but it's low enough for sure. Let's switch this out.
What would you expect from the K, having done a little bit of fitting testing?
Only a little bit more spin, a couple of hundred revs. I think it's sat pretty well for. I mean, obviously it's there for stability. It's not a particularly high kind of. It's not like it's a moon ball. So you've got a lot more weight at the back of the head, so that gives it stability. For some players like me, I've got to focus on getting that toe through the ball on this, because weight at the back for me tends to open the face up. But you know, it's actually relative to the stability, they've kept the spin in a good place. I think that's where even 430 max 10K, they didn't spin up too much. So I think that's what Ping have always done well with this model. Yes, it's a little more stretched back, but it doesn't look wildly different. I got that a bit low on the face. So I have to kind of fetch the head through a little bit more. So it's low on the face, but not lost a lot of ball speed. It's spun a little bit more. You say for me, it just feels a little more clumsy to get into the back of the ball, but that's purely my swing dynamics. There we go. So I have to, with these heads, I have to fetch the head through more. So I end up having to rotate a little more, hence turn that down and turn it over a little more. So spin relative to launch angle is up a little bit, but it's not moon ball. If I were to launch it, so I'd probably be 2.4 for a similar launch. So as much of that is me having to react to get all the mass at the back squared over. So I end up losing face control with the deep back weighted heads. But it's very, very stable, because neither of those were particularly middled. But about 300 to 500 revs more spin depending on the swing.
We've got a fantastic one here from Crowers. Good day, Simon. It's already a good start. I was out riding my kangaroo. I was out riding my kangaroo last night and wondered what the most current similar iron shaft would be to the DG Pro shafts that came out circa 2014. Would it be DG Mid 115 or 120?
So, depending on the flex. So the DG Pros were like a flighted shaft essentially. It was True Temper's version of a flighted rifle principle. But yeah, they sat in that 115 to 120 gram marker. So of the current ones, flight-wise, the mid 115s will be pretty similar. I think they're going to swing a little bit more tip heavy than the Dynamic Gold Pros. Those shafts actually be quite useful now, actually, realistically. But the mids kind of cover off what they do from a tip profile point of view, in the long irons in particular. But they're a little bit more neutrally balanced than the current range of those sort of mid-weight Dynamic Golds for me. But yeah, the mids would be the closest.
Another one from Simon LT5MC. That's a That's a wordy one. Hi, Simon and Matt. Can you please explain how shaft weight and then swing weight of irons can influence and even fix swing path issues? Can a slower swinger with over the top benefit from heavier?
Can do. I think it's one of those ones where ultimately what you're trying to do from the weight of the club is about matching up how the player and the club sync. So you can have someone who has a lot of speed, but doesn't need a lot of weight. So historically, the principle goal has been you've got lots of speed, go heavy to control it. Well, if your speed is through kind of snapping through, well, heavy's horrible because it just ends up dropping underneath. So you can actually be someone who has lots of speed. I'm not going to pretend this swing has lots of speed, but has lots of speed, very fast kind of snap through, and needs the club to come with them, so play something lighter. Equally speaking, you can be someone who, and they've done an update.
Oh, it's done the
not
update.
auto-syncing. There's a little software update where it doesn't track, which will be a bug that will be ironed out very, very soon. But equally speaking, you could be someone who doesn't have that kind of real kind of snap to it, but actually the club, a bit of weight helps to kind of bring the club down to the ball. So you can need the weight to kind of take you down into impact. Chances are if you're quiet club speed, then it's more likely going to be head weight that you need rather than heavy dead weight, because that's still likely to get it dropped behind you. But whether it's balance point the shaft or a bit of head weight, then using the balance of the club to take you to the ball is definitely a key. One of the keys that really can work. But it is ultimately, there's no formula to it in terms of your X speed or your X age or your X path and you're this shaft. It just doesn't work that way, but it can be the complete flip of what you'd expect it to be. Because there's a human on the end of the show.
Polo 1928 asks, is it all right to play different shafts in my woods and driver?
100%.
Yeah.
It would be odd if you didn't, quite frankly, because if you go way back, you used to play the same shaft more regularly because the heads were more similar sizes. You think the first metal woods were actually smaller than persimmon because of the extra weight of the metal. So the head size didn't progress very much, whereas now obviously using composites and titaniums and really lightweight metals, the driver heads and therefore what the forces are torsionally on the shaft are totally different. So the structure of the shaft and the driver is often needed to be different than the fairway would. And length progressions mean weight's got to develop as well, so in most cases. On the smaller head, you're generally looking for a shaft with a little bit more tip recovery, particularly for hitting off the ground to help generate a bit of spin, a bit of lift, and to help get that tone coming through. Whereas on a driver, you're trying to restrict any deflection, gearing. You're trying to kind of control the club head on an off-center strike. So a structurally more stable shaft is often used in the driver. So it would be quite very rare to play the same model of shaft all the way through driver, fairway into the hybrid. It's almost always a different one.
Reedy Harefield, evening gents. I'm wondering, I'm looking to always play a fade with driver this year. Wonder if you could hit a few drives to show the path numbers required for a slight fade.
Okay.
You got that one in the locker?
If it's about 5 years ago, I wouldn't have done. I think this is one of the very interesting point, because actually it doesn't need to be a lot. And this is where I think a lot of players go wrong. And we go back a couple of weeks to one of the questions on the live about hitting fairways. Fairway finder versus one you're going after, what do I change? The answer is not a lot. If you try and move path a lot, then you're moving your start lines a lot. You've got to manipulate face a lot. You've got to shape it a lot to get it back to target. So realistically, I'll just put a stock swing on. My stock swing tends to be very neutral. So right out the heel. But should be 1.6 into out. But I've heeled it so it's closed the face and geared it. So if I was going to try and hit a fade, ultimately I don't want to go 5 degrees out to in, because if I don't open the face to it and you square it to that path, then you run the risk of...
Can he hit a pull on demand? Yes.
4 on 5, but essentially I've hit that. What's the off line? Granted at 285, but offline's 100 foot left. You don't want to risk being that far offline because that's missing every fairway on the planet
apart from that one.
Apart from this one. Sod's law, pick the one time to use the old courses. So really, I'm wanting it to be 1 or 2 degrees so that I don't have to do much with the club face. So it's just a case of making sure I'm turning across it. I don't want to have to massively open the face up. I just want to be able to effectively just slide the club across it and hit a very slight pole fade, essentially.
Did he leave the face open too much? Yes.
So slight heel strike. That's why I tend to not play fades too often, because I generally don't need to. But 2 degrees, half a degree. Then if I miss it in the heel, I'm right edge of the fairway. If I pull it, I'm left side of the fairway, but I'm in the fairway. So if I don't get it in the heel, but that's as much as it needs to be. It doesn't have to be. We don't want to have to be hitting a 30-yard fade. I want to hit 10-yard fade. Slightly toe side now.
So you towed it instead.
Towed it instead. But there you go, 2 and 3, and the toe sides kept it in play. But that is the maximum, really, at these sort of distances. You want to be moving it, because ultimately, otherwise, it starts to shape an awful lot, and then you're changing your swing dynamics a heck of a lot more than you need to, and you're just bringing in bigger misses. So, a couple of degrees.
Olin Barrett.
Find the middle.
Olin Barrett asks, "Hi Simon and Matt, we'll be visiting for a full bag on March 7th with Jasper. Is a lefty. Will the Cobra 3D printed MB irons and QI40 LS be available?" QI40, yes.
3D printed irons, almost certainly not. We haven't even got the right-handed ones of the new models yet. But I would say left-handed. We'll do our best, but I doubt it. I doubt we'll have them by then.
Don't want to promise.
Yeah.
The Yorkshire Blade's given us a challenge. Pebble Beach, 7th hole, back left pin, 20 miles per hour left to right wind, 3 shots each.
I would, but it's a separate package for the Pebble Beach stuff on TrackMan.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
And it's £100 a year, because we're not a simulator facility.
We don't have it on there.
There's no point us paying for it. So I can set those conditions up on an other hole, like on the postage stamp, because it's a similar length. Oh, the castle. Well, you could do 17th on the castle course with a hoolie of a wind off the left. Well, we've still got 27 minutes, so we'll do. Let us know if there's or another hole on one of the Open Championship courses. We've got most of them. Is Turnberry on there? I think Turnberry's on there.
I'm 99% sure it's on there.
Yeah, I think we've got Turnberry, we've got St Andrews, we've got, a few of the St Andrews courses. We've got Royal St George's, we've got Troon. What are the other Open Championship courses we've got? I haven't got Carnoustie or Muirfield. Birkdale is on there. Yeah, give us one of those. Give us a whole one of those, and we'll set something horrible up on that. Yeah.
Coastal Imaging asks, "Hi, would 1 degree flat and 1 degree stronger make much difference on a putter fitting?"
So the lie, 1 degree makes no difference at all, because there's so little loft. So if you have, I got that. Yes, here we go. So.
Oh, he's even got the toys.
Look at that, the height of technology. So if you have no loft, you can make it as upright or as flat as you want, and it doesn't change where the face is aiming. The moment you have loft, it starts to change that effective face angle. So lie-wise, 1 degree in lie makes absolutely no difference to the way the ball rolls. Just a little bit on how it sits behind the ball visually. And then 1 degree on loft is just going to take a little bit of launch off and reduce a bit of backspin, or give you a little bit more topspin, but not massively. The players change them more on tour. They change 2 degrees for Pebble Beach because it's power and they're slower, having been at the Waste Management. Where it's rock hard and firm and grainy and fast. So 1 degree, I would say it's probably not, unless you've got the data and you know it's the right change to make, it's probably not worth making. Not this time of year anyway, and the greens are slow.
Virtuoso Blacker. "Evening, gents. We'll be getting the new Wilson Staff model irons in. Following a conversation we had today, most likely."
I would say we will. Yeah.
When watch the Instagram space would be our best suggestion on that.
Probably a few weeks away.
We will pop a story on as and when they arrive so that people know we have them. Anthony Ped, evening gents, been gifted a KBS Tour GPS 120 putter shaft. Don't know anything about it and putter shafts in general. How much difference can a putter shaft really make? GPS being a little more, I'd almost call it counterbalance, but it's...
So essentially the principle of a shaft like that is in graphite versus steel, you've got more material there, therefore you can affect torsional stability, zonal stiffness, rigidity essentially, twisting off center on off center strikes a little bit more than you can on steel. So that is where the graphite shafts technically have an advantage. In reality, how much difference does it make? You're changing the way it swings more than you're going to change. Are you going to hold noticeably more putts? With that alone, highly unlikely. You are changing the feel. Technically, it's going to start straighter and deform less and lose less ball speed and start on line more often, but it's an absolute gnat spitz. Like for me, I couldn't go to a graphite. I need the balance in the bottom end of the shaft. So I swing the head, I would end up losing the feel for the club head. But if you're more of a handle mover, almost that rigidity and that lack of balance down the bottom can be a good thing. You can get them in a pretty colour.
There are some pretty colours.
But it is limited. It is, realistically, it does something, it's limited. And if it suits your tempo and the way you make your stroke, then it could help. But it is small. In reality, it's small.
Crows 3's back again. Me again. Any chance of a video showing your facility, what's in each bay, how shafts categorised on the wall, build room tour, putting lab, coaching labs? Would be great to see where you guys work. We have a video tour on YouTube, I believe, filmed at some point last year. Beginning of last year. But
we did a bit of a walk around.
There's some moving parts going on at the moment that I'm sure when they're all finished we can once
R2D2's just giving you a
once all the parts have been finalised on the bits that are moving, I'm sure we can do another tour of some form. Mark Bucknell, evening gents, anything stand out in the new driver heads during fittings, particularly for a slower swing speed?
So I would say that where in the past, for a lower club speed where we're trying to keep a bit of launch up, I would have gone to Callaway. I'm not going to Callaway this year for that because they come out a little bit flatter. And if you're a toe striker, I'm definitely not going to Callaway this year because they're great if you're on the heel side, but on the toe side, the spin, we've seen a lot of time the spin's knuckles off. For a lower club speed, something like a GT1 keeps launch up. They've been really good for doing that because at lower speed, it's more important to get it up and in the air and flighted and carrying. Trying to remember what the rest of the question was.
It's just what driver heads have been great during fittings. I would say the
Max K, the Cobra.
No, sorry,
or the Ping as well.
I was thinking the Ping. The 440K.
I've had good results out of the Cobra as well. The Optum Max K. I think those have been, but the Ping again, it's really stable, and that back weight does help to create a little bit of flight.
The only thing with Ping is it's more extreme as to the back to front separation within the head. So depending on dynamics of how you move it, you might find that the Optimum's a slightly better fit because it's a slightly more balanced head to get to that 10K.
And the Titan's that bit lighter, so if you don't need head weight, the GT1 being a little bit lighter as its base start point, that can be a good thing as well. But I would say those are the three that I've seen the best results with so far.
Suli Said is my punt on that one.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Hello, is it worth upgrading from Mizuno JPX 923 forged to 925 forged?
They're a little more forgiving, I would say. Across the face, they are a little bit better. 923s slightly neater head shape.
Yeah. If you're getting on with your 923s, I wouldn't rush to change, is the honest answer. I think that 923s were a very good head. 925s, yeah, they are, as they tend to be most years, they are slightly more forgiving. You're not going to sneak much more ball speed, and spin's pretty much the same.
If maybe a hair lower.
If anything, they come out a little stronger. So I would be inclined to say, if you like what you've got in the 923, stick with them.
Yeah, and a single generation on is always hard to argue for unless you're just not getting good ball flight or consistent contact. Say, for example, lower on the face, you might squeeze a little bit more performance out of the newer model. Slightly more versatile sole shape maybe on the new model if you're a little bit steeper into it. But it's always marginal one model on if you're playing with clubs that are working for you. Generally be looking at 2 to 3 cycles before you start seeing anything really noticeable.
Daniel Winterbottom's back with a follow-on from his question earlier about high swing weight or high dead weight causing casting.
Yep.
He's really struggling with casting using Modus 130s in the 770s and the Revenge 85 on fairways, all at D2. I'd be inclined to say it's probably a dead weight
thing,
conversation then.
I mean, the 130s are a 125, but they're not a tip balance shaft, whereas the Modus 120s are more down the bottom end. So the 130s are kind of more upper mid in terms of weight position. The Revenge 85 is a 90-gram shaft. So they are pretty sturdy, and that's likely to be dead weight, yeah.
Sounds that way to me. Sam Mitch. Hello, love the show.
Thank you very much.
Very kind. Question on putter weights. What's the purpose of increasing weights on a heel or toe of the putter? What situation would compel a fitter to do that? I guess if you're asking, why would you change just one of, for example, in a Scotty, one of the two? Very, very rare cases of potentially someone trying to force someone into a product rather than working on technique. It may be that someone's come in saying, I want to make a Newport 2 work, and it just isn't going to because the technique isn't there. They may go and put a toe weight into to create some form of difference in rotation. But if I'm honest, if you're at a point where a fitter's changing one of the two weights, it's probably more a lesson in a technique thing than a
or
putter.
They don't want to change the two weights to have the double up effect. They only want a small weight change. But I've not, having spoken to quite a lot of the guys about putter design and asked about those sort of things, I've not known any putter designer say that it is something that they would advise. They'd advise even weight change between the two, if anything. But it might be that they don't want to add 10 grams to the putter. They might want to add 5. And so in that instance, it's just a balance thing. It's a slight change. But that would be the only instance I could see it actually having an actual value in making the change, just in one of them.
John O'Leary. If clubs and shafts are helping a player get the ball airborne, should ball position be placed further back in the stance? Not necessarily.
Well, not necessarily. Ball position is really about low point and getting consistent strike. That primarily should be what you're looking at that for. Because if you're catching it at the right point in the swing and your technique's sound, then the club face should be naturally squaring at the same point as well, or likely to be. So the moment you move that ball position forward or back, you're changing your swing direction, you're changing your low point, you're changing the chances of squaring the club face, so you're increasing compensations. So use the head design, the loft, the shaft to help from a consistency of strike and a general launch and spin side of things to try to optimize things. But you're only going to move ball position as a technique aid, not. I wouldn't want someone to do it specifically for that reason if you're using clubs to do it as well, because I think you either just undo what the clubs have done, or you're going to compromise face control. Would be my concern. Jason
Owen, very quick question: are the new Cobra irons that are 3D printed ahead of the competition, or just a gimmick?
I think they're ahead of the competition.
So do I.
The lattice structure inside allows the stability of the head to be retained, but has saved 100 grams of weight. So if you can reposition 100 grams of weight heel and toe, you create a lot more stability, and that's what they've done. Yeah, I mean, essentially a blade that plays more like if you think it in terms of more forgiving than say a T150. A T150 style head that plays more forgiving than I'm going to use the tightest, just more forgiving than the T250. And then you've got a T250 shape that plays more forgiving than the T350. So you're gaining forgiveness. You're not gaining fast face, but you're gaining stability off center. And I think they are innovating heavily in that and definitely ahead of the curve.
I do wonder if as and when the concepts are replaced by Titleist, whether that's an avenue they will explore, because there is such a benefit to it with what we've seen in the testing we have done.
The only challenge for them is volume.
Yes.
It's upping that.
Yeah, it's actually just being able to print enough to.
And that bringing the cost down as well.
Yeah. Van House. Hi guys, currently play a GT2 driver and struggling with it, probably me. Really interested in the QI4D as I love my R7 Mini. Would you say there is much difference in the two heads between GT2 and QI4D?
So with the QI4D, you've got the ability to move the weights around. So you've got the ability to move weight front and back and heel and toe. So there is some versatility from it in that respect. Spin consistency is very good on QI4D. If you're not getting on with your GT, it might not be the head. It might actually be shaft setup, length, swing weight. It could be something other than the club head. And just changing into a QI4D might not be the fix. So actually, depending on if it's consistency of strike, then that's probably not the head. That's more likely to be the rest of the club. So I would say, if anything, QI4D probably holds a little bit more spin consistency, but GT2 is just as strong from a flight point of view. So in the comparison tests we've done recently, GT2 still is right up there performance-wise with everything else. So I wouldn't automatically go blaming the head for this one. I would be looking at the other aspects of it and saying, right, what's not working for you there before you start changing club head. Right, where are we on that one? There we go. EROE, Aero. Yeah. What Ventus fairway shaft is most comparable to the Graphite Design IZ? Well, it's the red.
Yeah.
The red is still more tip stable.
Yeah.
It's still structurally a more rigid shaft. IZ is more responsive through the whole body of the shaft, but Ventus red.
It's as close as you're going to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David Thurman, what dictates spin numbers with driver? Head, shaft, or swing? Had Sim 2 Max, but high spin, so changed to Aerojet. Now at 2700 to 2900.
I'd still be inclined to say, depending on swing speed numbers and launch conditions, I'd be inclined to say that potentially still needs looking at, but that's not what the...
I was saying, what dictates the spin numbers? It's
a combo.
It's swing and head.
Yeah. Shaft will be controlled by swing, really. It's head and delivery pattern.
Shaft's going to fine tune it. I mean, it's not, shaft isn't going to make the flight go from there to there, from bend profile alone. But your most direct change to launch and spin is loft and the head style, and your swing and how you're delivering it. So the shaft is more about consistent delivery in terms of timing and feel that you like. But that's really where it maxes out. You've got to do a heck of a lot with shaft to match 1 degree of loft change. So, Paul Dunn, 5712. Simon, like you, I struggle to close the face when driver has heavy weight at the back, but I like the forgiveness they offer. What models offer forgiveness but easier to square the face? LST. 440 LST is a good option. It's weight forward, but it's still nice and stable across the face. I would say the new Optum X, where you can move the weight forward, that's definitely one. It's one of those ironies. I find GT3 more forgiving than a lot because it allows me to square the face. I'm not then kind of trying to flip at it, but I would say... It
depends what you want from a forgiveness point of view, because ultimately something like QI4D, if you then toy around with where you have the weights to get the balance right, actually spin consistency, there is very little as good as that from a spin consistency standpoint. So on off-center strike, so actually you might find that QI4D and then just a slight tweak to where the weights are gets you in the most forgiving place from a total distance result.
So we've got a lot of questions in 10 minutes, so we're gonna fire
rattle
through them. So again, thank you for all the questions. Always great. The questions are really getting have continued to get better and better and better. It's really interesting for us, but hopefully seems to be interesting for you as well. So thank you very much. EROE, love the show and all the education. What are your thoughts on ionic grips and how are they when moisture comes into play?
I played them growing up for 8 years because I just liked the different colours, and there was a point I had a different colour on every golf club. I was
And
one
you
of
take
those.
the mick out of my trousers.
And I have to say, I was probably the only person that never had any issues when it came to in the rain. Now that might have been just I got lucky or something to do, because I know there's a lot of people that actually struggle a little bit with them in the rain. So I would,
I mean, they're amazing in humid conditions.
yeah, I would say in the rain in the UK, if you're UK based, put them on and try them is the ultimate answer. I think if you're somewhere that's a lot more humid and it's sweat with hands, you're in a pretty good place.
Yeah. Tom Middlehurst, hi Simon, what club would a 7-wood replace and when would you play it over a hybrid or utility iron? So 7-wood, 21, 22 degrees, so you're looking at, a lot of clubs now it's a 4-iron, but effectively kind of 3-4 iron or a 4 hybrid, and you're looking to maximise height and stopping power. Now for Thomas, where your swing speed is, that might get too high. And the danger with it is spin gets too high, then it just gets up and it gets stalled. And then any conditions that we get over here, the ball's just getting battered about all over the place. So you don't really want the spin to be getting much over 4,000 at your speed if you can help it. With as long as you can get away with like a 13 launch and 4.1, 4.2 on spin. But if it's getting up to 15 launch and 4,500, then at the speed that you have, it's just ballooning and banking. And then you go into a hybrid to pare that back down again. So it's really about what launch and spin you're getting. The higher speed, it can balloon up a little bit. But
there's a reason why when they're in the US, they'll play, like the guys on tour will play 7-woods and 9-woods in the US. And as soon as they land in Europe, it's back to hybrids and long irons, because that ain't happening.
Yeah. And course style. You're playing a course that's through the air-based or it's off a tee. So, driving range king, 87 miles an hour, 7-iron. Would traditional lofts and light shafts give similar results to strong lofts and heavier shafts, flight and or distance? No, it wouldn't. The moment you change loft, you're bringing spin down, you're bringing launch down. You might gain a bit of ball speed, but you're bringing spin down a few hundred revs noticeably, and the moment you change shaft weight, you're changing your timing. So you're either going to deliver one better than the other, and use that shaft, but then use the loft to fine tune your launch and spin to get it in a nice window for stability of flight and control. But you can't swap them around and have a club that still works ultimately. Papa B. Good evening. Hello, young men. Would you please explain the use of hot melt in club fitting? How does it help? And is it only for drivers? You're the best.
We tend to not use it. Well, we use it very sparingly or in very particular scenarios, because there's a couple of reasons. One, it's such a permanent thing that you can't retract. So, let's say it's at that moment in time with whatever setup, it needed to be a little bit of extra hot melt in the toe to help with controlling face angle, and then you go and make a swing change, and then you come back in and go, well, now I'm hitting everything right because the hot melt's out, and so that head's now done. The guys use it on tour because if they make a change and it doesn't quite work, they just get rid of it. Okay, if you've got an infinite checkbook and you're happy to just go, okay, that didn't work, I'll buy another one, by all means go for it. But we try and not. We'll use lead tape to control, to influence head weight and potentially influence a little bit of where the balance on the head is. But that's as much as we will never make we very rarely make permanent changes to the balance.
Every hollow-bodied head, every wood head has a bit of hot melt in it to catch debris and to weight the head to tolerance. So we might well in the back of a club head put a little bit more in, a few grams in, to help with weight management, balancing the club, but that would be it. Otherwise,
we'll do everything we can.
We don't want to get it on the face because we've ruined it, then we have to pay for another one. We try not to if we can help it, but it's purely for balance. Tiger Tim, evening. Can you hit Callaway Quantum Triple Diamond Max 10.5 degree versus 9 degree? Not going to do that one now, simply we were running out of time, and there was a request for that par 3 challenge. But that will be one. We can certainly do that another week, but just want to get as many of these questions in as I can. The answer is you're going to see about a degree of launch change and about 500 revs of spin difference between the two different heads, but those two both come out strong. Tom Middlehurst, I've got Nippon 950 shafts on my irons. Having wrist issues, is it worth switching to graphite? And if so, can you suggest a similar shaft? You could look at grip type as well to take a bit of vibration out. If it's a vibration-based injury, then that's where graphite could help. And you could look at a steel fiber. You could look at the graphite design, the Rawnay in an I-90. Axioms are probably a little harsh.
Yeah, I think the I-90 or the 95i, the TZ95i from Acura might feel a touch harsh, but that's a nice alternative. But I would say trying the CP2 Pro or something that's a little softer, that's designed to just dampen those vibrations just a touch.
Or possibly maybe a slightly bigger grip, just so you're not having to hold on quite so tight. That would certainly be worth looking at as well. Ben Loconnor, 1990. Thanks, guys. Currently gaming a QI10 Core with a Ventus TR50 Blue stiff. At 85 mile an hour club speed, am I wrong to fear I'm too slow for this shaft? It's not about club speed, it's about timing and feel. So the TR is going to feel fairly stable, but it's not overly heavy, so just under 60 grams. And if it times well, you'll get good ball speed, you'll get good dispersion. So don't worry about club speed relative to, unless it's really kind of wild, if you're 130 mile an hour, if you're down at 65 miles an hour, okay, you'll want something that's going to respond and give a nice sort of balance of feel and stability or responsiveness. But for where you are, it wouldn't be something that would be the cause of a problem, be the flex for sure. It wouldn't be that. For everyone, David, in your opinion, what is the best way to increase club head speed?
Hit balls hard as you can for as long as you can. I did this a couple of years ago. I didn't go down the route of the speed sticks because I don't do the hitting without resistance. I tried that, no. At the end of every practice session, just take like your last 20, 30 swings, get driver out and go, right, I'm just going to try and hit 10 as hard as I can, get to a point where you sort of stabilize. If you're able to get tracking, some form of club tracking or ball tracking, get to a point where you can hit your limit on ball speed, take it down 2-3 mile an hour and just try and hit that as your number for 5 or 10 swings, then push again and you'll find that you'll sneak up 2 mile an hour from where you got to as your limit the first time. You do that over 6 months, you will see 10 mile an hour ball speed. You will, because you naturally will find a point where your body pushes itself and pushes itself. I found 13 mile an hour club speed doing that over 9 months.
Yeah, and hit balls doing it. So James and I spoke to Eddie Fernandez, who's senior long drive champion, and he was saying the problem is if you swing hard without the impact, actually you can injure yourself. So he wouldn't kick a ball as hard as possible without the ball being there. You put your hip out, and so you will maintain the feel of the club face and the control and keep strike as well by doing it that way. Can you set up the 8th Royal Troon? That is the request from the Yorkshire Blade. We can do Royal Troon 8th for you. EROE, what's the S400 X100 shaft equivalent in graphite? Well, you've got something like the Axiom, Fujiko Axiom 125, which is really, really stout. You've got the steel fiber 125. TZI 115s from Acura are nearly as heavy, but probably won't feel quite as stout as a result. But I would go with either the steel fiber or the Axiom. MMTs do they do the 125s in the MMTs? I think they do, don't they? I think there's an MMT,
they did. I don't know if
MMT 125, but the Axiom or the steel fiber would be the ones for me that I would go to. User FV3i, blah, blah, blah. Can you compare DG95 versus AMT Red? What profile of play would suit better? Keep the great channel going. Thank you very much. Dynamic Gold 95 will swing a lot more tip heavy. The AMT has a strong weight progression through, so it's almost like 2 sets of shafts in one. The principle being that the longer shafts being lighter are easier to swing and get going and get height and generate speed with, but the timing can be compromised because of the weight progression. But Dynamic Gold 95 swing pretty head heavy. So generally someone who wants a lighter dead weight, you do nearest the pin. You got nearest. Going to
closest to the pin. That's been
so anyone who wants a bit of mass on the bottom end to kind of pull against the Dynamic Gold 95 is good, but it's not overly heavy. AMT is generally a little lighter balance, but that weight progression is still more like 2 sets within one, so it's why we don't do very many of them at all. David Brett, EROE, Iomic grips are great. Yeah, David loves an Iomic grip down on the south coast, and he plays in rain for sure. So, EROE, how do they do with sweat water? Do they get slick? I'm using MCCs, but like the Iomic looks. If it's warm and they're humid, they tack up. But if they get wet, like some players, they're great for. If they get wet, you can get a little bit of slip on the top. But they are doing some slightly softer and firmer variants as well, which is quite nice. David Brett, Simon, #1 fan, led me watch this week. I hope she's well. Will there be a live on the 6th of April on location? I'm not sure I'd be able to broadcast from Augusta there. But on the 6th, I will not be at Augusta. I'll be at Lexington Country Club with young Greg Payne, who we used to work with. But sadly, yeah, we won't be able to broadcast from an iPhone, I'm afraid. And he follows up, ERA, fine and wet, just clean them regularly. I like wet weather gloves, so would recommend them. Thanks, David. So, right, we haven't got through those last few, but thank you so much for sending them in. We're going to give this, 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, I thought I'd give us a
Goodness
test.
gracious. So what are you doing here? How are you playing this one? Because this is nigh on impossible.
I've got 8 iron. I'm going
8 iron.
back foot and kind of trying to hit a punch cut into the back corner and see what happens.
8 iron for this one is about a quarter swing, this length. 28 mile an hour wind, jeepers.
I've towed it because my wrist hurts.
And at that amount of wind, there's no way you're holding the line there. Whoa.
It was 3 shots each, right?
Yeah, it's whether you do them in one go, though.
That was, no, I get another go by the looks of it.
It's impossible to not be in deep rough or a bunker with this one. You've got to aim it almost off the screen.
Just got to get lucky on the wind timing.
There's genuinely conditions you might get up there as well. Ooh.
That wind is silly.
Well, you set it. You've also hit it way too... No, you haven't hit it way too hard.
No, that's the number. Right, I'm zoning in.
So,
here we go.
So the conversion, for those that play in wind, the conversion is for every mile an hour into wind, you lose 2 yards carry. Every mile an hour downwind, you gain a yard carry, but it then runs out the extra. So basically, it's double. Do you know how many miles an hour the wind is? If it's dead into or dead downwind, you gain or lose twice the amount of the miles an hour. So 25 mile an hour wind is 50 yards.
Probably why I had to hit that quite hard.
Which is why I need more than an 8 iron. That looks quite good. That's gone left.
Oh, I thought that was good.
It's in the air way too long. That's not bad though. So 120 add, that's 180, 170, 180 odd. So that is a chippy 6. Right.
How silly.
Right, so. It's actually not really a chippy 6, is it?
That's way too at it.
Yeah, I just realised that started nowhere near where it needed to start.
You've also put it on the next tee box.
I've also absolutely murdered it. It's a chippy 6, it's not a driven
It's a great
6.
shot to the wrong green.
Right. It's only 160 foot off. Right, okay, so I've got to tone that back a little bit. That's got chances.
You've been unfortunate because the wind, just for that last one, switched to more off the right rather than in. It's a good effort. You can tell he plays links golf every so often.
Right. So just got to aim it and just shorten that down a little bit. Quite like the feel of that one. Down, 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 down.
Oh dear. Am I closer? Off the green?
Well, I got 2 on the green, so surely that wins. Now, we're not competitive at all here. Matt wins the hole. You're not even on the green. That's an outrage.
Well played, sir.
Yeah.
If I was that close in 3 tries, in those conditions, I'd be happy.
I'll take any of those shots. Thank you so much for joining us as ever. Great load of questions. Sorry you couldn't quite get through all of them, but we will endeavour to answer them quicker next time round. And thank you so much for coming on, as ever.
Thank you for having me.
Later. Potentially have Putting Matt on next week. So he's certainly put his name in the ring, so we might kind of get him downstairs. So it looks like it'll be some putting side of things next week as well. But thanks for joining us. Have a great week watching Riviera. I'm not sure what's on DP World Tour this year, but yeah, hopefully some more great golf, classic golf course. Great fun. See you next Monday.